Hello YouTube. Well, I've drug another project home. I've got a Ford 2000, early 2000 on the trailer. Kind of interesting. This belongs to a neighbor of mine. My neighbor saw my series with me rebuilding my 2000 Ford, which actually is right there in the background. And I saw her one day and she said, "Would you be interested in getting my 2000 going again?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I could do that." So this is a project I've got. Want to get this, see what I can do with in the next few weeks with this thing. Now, this is a 2000 Ford, and that is a 2000 Ford. But they are completely different tractors. In 1962, 63, and 64, these 2000s are essentially a rebadged 600. And from 1965 to 1975, the 2000s, 2000, 3000, 4000, they were an entirely new series of tractors. These two tractors, even though they are both 2000s, are entirely different. So just Ford likes to keep things interesting, I guess. But anyway, this has a heavy-duty front axle. There's a really heavy-duty loader that goes with this tractor that they've had on it, which I haven't seen yet. It's at another neighbor's place. I understand there's been a fair amount of work done on this tractor. It just wouldn't start one spring, and I guess I don't know how hard anyone tried to get it running after that, but I guess they essentially lost interest in it. And they've got a new Kubota, which is a nice tractor that they use. This has been sitting for, I assume, at least a couple of years. But you know, just giving a brief look over, it looks like it's still a pretty decent tractor. We're going to find out anyway. I'm going to unchain it, roll it off the trailer, roll it into the barn. I probably won't do anything with it until next week. It's supposed to be kind of rainy at the beginning of next week, so it'll be a good time. I assume I'll have a chance to do something with it then. It's ridiculously warm today for the end of October. It's in the 80s. There's some other stuff I want to get done while the weather's this nice. I'd prefer it if it was in the 50s, but well, this is what we got. But anyway, we'll bring you back and we'll dig into this thing a little bit probably next week, so stay tuned for that. Okay, it's been raining all day and all last night, so I'm in the barn today. Seems like a good day to take a look at this 2000 Ford. Been looking at a little bit. I put their battery charger on it yesterday. This battery is dead and refuses to take charge. So I'll grab the battery out of my combine, which is just on the other side of that wall there, throw it in here. The oil looks pretty good, pretty clean. Looks just about like new. It's got some really good looking coolant in the radiator. That's full. The gas tank, well, this is the gas tank for a diesel. It's not, doesn't look like the right one, but the gas tank looks pretty clean. It's got a little bit, just a tiny bit of really crappy looking gas in the bottom of it, but it looks like it's there's not enough in there, just enough to keep the bottom of the tank a little wet. Otherwise the tank is pretty clean. I see it's been well, this has been converted to a one-wire alternator. It's been rewired. The wiring looks pretty darn good. Let's see. The sediment bowl is still full of crappy gas. I'll take that off, clean it out. It's had a new carburetor put on it at some point. It doesn't look very old. I'll pull the drain out of the bottom of the carburetor. Drain out anything that's in there. I'll try it like it is. I wouldn't be shocked if I'd have to take the carburetor out and off and clean it, but anyway, the first thing we'll do is I'm going to pull the plugs out, see what they look like, take a compression test, and because it's quick and easy to do. You know, a gasoline engine needs it needs fuel, compression, and spark in the proper sequence. And if it's got all those things, it should run. So I'll pull the plugs out, check the compression, shine the points up a little bit, because I don't know how many years this thing has been sitting. If everything checks out there and if it's got spark, I'll put a little bit of fresh gas in it and see what happens. So I'll bring you back in a bit. Okay, the spark plugs all looked really good. I did uncover a couple of potential issues. Well, one is definitely an issue, but the first thing I saw was that the distributor cap was on backwards, not the plug wires, but the cap itself. This cap, like a lot of these, has a little tab on one side, and it goes into a corresponding slot on the distributor base. This was on 180 degrees off, so the slot, or so the tab was not seated into a slot. You know, it'll still work that way, but that means that the distributor cap is not seated squarely down onto the base of the distributor, and it leaves it open to potential moisture getting into the cap, and that causes problems. So I turned it around like it should be, moved the plug wires, got them back where they're supposed to be. I don't know if that was an issue or not, but it was just a potential issue that I eliminated. Another thing that was definitely an issue is the ignition switch is bad. I checked the power to the coil and wasn't getting anything there, and kept checking back and found that the switch was bad. Got power on one side, but nothing was coming out. So I got myself another switch. We'll install that and check things out. If that checks out and I get fire, I'll pour some fresh gas into it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I've got fire at the spark plugs now. Got the plugs back in. I poured a couple gallons of fresh gas in it, and the needle valve in the carburetor is stuck. That gas running out of the carburetor. A couple of good wraps with the crescent wrench didn't solve it, so I'm going to take the carburetor apart and clean it up. That's not terribly surprising for a tractor that's been sitting for a few years, so we'll go ahead and get that done. Well, it turns out the trickiest part is getting the carburetor apart without ruining the gasket on the float bowl, which I apparently did not accomplish. I thought maybe it would be okay. I took it apart. It was really not very dirty, just the needle valve was just kind of sticky. But I put it back together now, and I've got a little bit of gasoline dripping out of it. And since trying to start it up with gas dripping on the exhaust pipe just seems like a bad idea, I'm going to go in and get on the interwebs and see if I can locate a gasket kit, a rebuild kit for this carburetor. So that's about all I can do right now until I get that. So I'll bring you back when I get the carburetor finally to stop leaking. Well, it's a couple of days later, and I'm back on my trusty iPhone today because my GoPro decided it would prefer not to power up today with either of my fully charged batteries. So yay technology. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with that darn thing tonight. But back to the tractor. I've got the new gaskets in the carburetor and nothing is leaking. So I'm just about ready to try this thing, see what happens. It may do nothing. It may run. It may explode into a huge ball of flame. So let's all find out if any of those scenarios come to pass. Okay, it does run, not really well. Still got carburetor issues. I think there's that old fuel has kind of varnished up some of the passageways in that carburetor. I've decided to take the carb off and soak it in my carb cleaner for a day or two, see if I can get it cleaned out. It charges. The oil pressure is frighteningly low, but then neither of the other two gauges work on it, so I'm not entirely convinced I should believe the oil pressure gauge. I'll get it running decent and investigate that further. But I think I'm going to end this video here. It's probably getting about long enough. I have proven that the Ford 2000 here that belongs to my neighbor will run. I just need to tinker with it a little more. I've got to move on to other things. There's a few other projects I'm working on right now, but that will come up later. So until then, everyone out there have a good day.